today I would like to share some of the best examples of the open banking implementation that we had, and as well as the perspective of TPPs and the best use cases that we have found so far in Europe that hopefully will be implemented in Brazil as well and will extend to even more nicer functionalities. So as we know, the European open banking has started back in 2016, and the banks should have implemented all the APIs by 14th of September 2019. So even back to this date, we're in 2021, and there are still some struggles with implementation of open banking across Europe and the UK. However, we have already seen quite nice implementations and examples of the open banking here. And in some regions, like for example in the UK, we're slowly moving from the open banking to broader scope of open finance and even open data that hopefully I can share during the presentation as well. To implement open banking is not that simple for the banks. There is a lot of functionalities that has to be offered, and we are talking here about the basic APIs, and that has to be provided for the account information, for payment initiation. There is modules of the verification of third parties to ensure that everything that they are doing is valid and they actually have the right to access specific data of the customers. There is a need for the dedicated environment with the developer portals, extensive documentation and support for third parties, and of course for the bank to somehow monitor and oversight all these processes. In average, for a bank to implement such a big project, we are talking here about minimum 6 months, typically 1 year, 1.5 years of the implementation. If we're talking of a bank using a vendor that is already working and providing services in this space. Otherwise, if some of the banks have implemented it in-house, we are talking about 2 years implementation. So the first lesson that we have learned in Europe is that as a bank, you have to start the implementation quite early because the project takes quite some time to implement. And even after the implementation stage, there is roughly 6 months to 12 months review cycle with the TPP verification and understanding whether the API is really working or not. Hence why the earliest you start, the better your API will get with time. So don't lose time and don't wait for the last minute deadline.